Area type functions more like text in Adobe InDesign or in Quark Express. The area is the container for the text, and as you resize the container, the text flows accordingly. The area can have columns, and it doesn't even have to be a rectangle. Any closed vector path can be used as an area type object. Now, if you just try to take the area type tool and click on the artboard, you're going to get an error message because Illustrator doesn't know what kind of container you want to put the type in. So I'm going to switch to the regular type tool and just click and drag out a shape on the artboard. And this becomes my area type container, and I can paste some text into it. And again, this is the container for the text, so when I resize the container, the text reflows accordingly. Now you can start with a shape. I'll just draw out an ellipse here. And now I'm going to take the area type tool, and notice that the area type cursor has a little round dotted line around it, and I can click anywhere on this path to turn that into an area type object, and like before, I'll paste my text into it. I'm going to undo those last two steps and show you that you can take the regular type tool, and once you get inside a shape, you'll notice that the cursor has that same circular dotted line around it, and that tells me that I can turn this shape into an area type object by clicking on it. So as I said in the previous video, you can just use the regular type tool, and depending on what kind of object you're working with, the type tool will know that you're trying to create area type. One thing to look for on an area type object are these ports. The in port and the out port on either side of the object have to do with how the text links from one object to the other. If I make this object too small to contain all of the text, you see a red plus sign on the out port telling me that I have overset text. I can click on the plus sign once with the selection tool, and you'll notice that my cursor changes to a little text icon, and in my toolbar I've actually switched to the type tool automatically, and now I can hover over this object and notice that my cursor gets a little parentheses around it, and once I click to make this an area type object, that text is threaded from the first object to this one. You'll notice the heavy blue line here telling me that these two objects are linked and threaded. And if I make my first object large enough to contain that text, all the text fits in it, or if I make this object too small, it goes ahead and threads into that next object. So the in port is on the upper left and the out port is on the lower right, and notice that when some text is threaded from one object to the next, the out port and the in port have a little arrow inside of them. If I had even more text, I could thread it from this second object to yet another one. So how do you tell the difference between area type and point type? These two paragraphs look really similar, but the one on the left is area type and the one on the right is point type. Remember to look for the in port and the out port on an area type object, and a point type object will not have these because you can't link point type to another object. This is some point type that I've applied some soft returns to make it look like a paragraph. If I hide the bounding box, you can see that the point type has no frame around it, but the area type does have a frame, and again it has those in ports and out ports on the upper left and lower right. I'll show the bounding box again, and I can use that to resize the area type object, and as we've just seen, the type flows accordingly. But if I resize the point type object, the text itself gets scaled, and in fact, in this case, it's distorted. If I select some of this text and then go to my character palette, you can see that I have a horizontal scaling of about 59%. If you want to scale point type proportionally using the bounding box, hold down the Shift key as you drag, and that way it won't distort. When you have an area type object selected, you can set its options by going to the Type menu to Area Type Options. I'll turn on the Preview button here, and now I can change the width by entering a numerical value. Let's say I need to have that box exactly 400 pixels. I can also change the height, the number of columns, and so on. I can change how far the type is inset from the bounding box by using the inset spacing, and I'm just using my up arrow key to increase that, and you can see that there is now a bit of white space inside that frame. We'll go over more of the area type options in an upcoming video, but next up we're going to look at type on a path.